So welcome to this level one tag matrix class. I realized that when we're coming in, um, I think I said this as I put this class together. This is only the second time that I have taught the tag curriculum. And that the last time I taught it was like 7 or 8 years ago. That group still hangs together. They still do the work, and the information that I'll be sharing in these levels, the next 3 levels, some of it has never been taught before because as our energy shifts within our human experience, it opens up new possibilities, and the tag system is created to be connected to information that can continue to feed us and guide us and expand. So if that information is always changing and expanding. So some of this information has never been taught before. So welcome, students. It's like I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm going to set space, and I have a candle. If you have a candle, and you want to light it, now would be a good time. And just let that flame hold all of that we bring to setting of this space. So take a deep breath. And let that breath remind your entire being, your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, that there are possibilities unlimited, just as the breath is unlimited. And in that unlimitedness, there's nothing to fear. Just as there's nothing to fear every time you breathe. You don't worry about the breath. It brings to you all that you need and more. That's what we want to remind all aspects of our beingness here on the planet, from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. That there is so much more for us to play within, to reframe with, and that we are choosing to move out of fear and domination into our magnificence. We meet here on the ground, sacred ground of sovereignty. We meet within the vortex created by the Guardian Circle teams of healing, secure connection to the divine. The PTO team to remove what has entrapped us in the past so that we can think and converse and be together in power, in sovereignty, in joy, to create our lives anew. We give honor to the energy moving through that collective we call sun, that recalibrates that energy for our use. And we honor the earth upon which we stand for the consistency and the commitment that that collective group we call Gaia has brought to this earth experience. We are grateful for that. So our circle is called for our curiosity, our expansion, our release from fear, held within the energy of sun and earth, within the energies of love and joy. And so it is set and opened. And so it is. So as we gather, some of us for the first time together, the circle is set. I've brought some things into that design. And what I'm going to invite each of you to do is to uh, open your mic when you're called and tagged, we call it tag, to place yourself in the circle with your name, where you are on the planet, and what is a quality you would want to add to this field upon which we're meeting. And so I will do that for myself, then I will pass it to someone else, and then they will pass it around until everyone has had a turn. If at any time during our sharing you want to pass, you're perfectly welcome to pass. We'll come back to you if you want to have just a little bit more time to think, or if you just want to pass that question, you're welcome to do that too. Everything in this circle, everything that we share in this circle is kept in the circle so that it can be a safe place for us to share some of the things that might come up that would be helpful for those things to be heard, even though we're not going to go into therapy, but sometimes just hearing yourself say what you need to say, knowing that you are heard in this intelligent field we call circle, is very powerful and is enough. So short guidelines for our circle. So Sharon Raji Maynard here. I'm on Whidbey Island, state of Washington. And quality I want to add to the circle this morning is bravery. And I'm going to pass it to Christina.
Thank you, Sharon. Christina Thiot here. I am in Switzerland, Zurich, but also connected to Italy. My origins are Italian. And I want to bring into the circle a special word I had to look up, serendipity. Yeah. And I pass to Susan.
Good morning, I'm Susan Therese. I'm here in Byron, Illinois in the beautiful Midwest. I would like to bring the word expansion in. I'll tag Emma.
Hello, everyone. I am Emma McKenzie. I am in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and this is a healing course, and so there's a little bit of healing that I could use, and so I'm going to bring the energy of healing, deep healing, into this circle, and I will tag Alexander.
This is Alexander on her phone. I'm using 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 Oh dear.
No, just mute yourself. Mute yourself and then unmute.
I don't know what to do.
Mute you for a minute. So Alexandra, I just muted you for a moment. I think what happened is a reverberation from your computer to your phone because the computer had been unmuted. So unmute just your phone and let's see what happens.
I think I'll just use the phone for communication. It's the 919-258-9299 that you see. I am Alexandra Lett. I live in the heart of North Carolina, in the absolute middle of nowhere, where we're waiting for technology to catch up with us again. What I would like to put into the circle today is clarity of purpose. Clarity of purpose. One of the reasons I'm taking this course is to see if I can get more clear about the next step in my career. And let's see, I will tag somebody that I do not know, and her name is Asher They Them.
Asher,
Hello, my name's Asher. I'm from Bothell, Washington, and I would like to bring creativity.
creativity. Thank you, everyone. I unmuted as I went to make a note, because as you know, I'm going to be taking notes as we go along, because sometimes what comes up in the circle and which in their conversation, I need to capture it so that I can bring it back in some fashion. So glad to have you all here. There is also a Wednesday class, as you well know, this meeting like the same week. So this particular group information for today will be, I will share that with the Wednesday class at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If at any time you cannot make the Monday class, you are welcome into the Wednesday class. And I'm going to be telling them the same thing, so that we might have some of the Wednesday students popping in on Monday periodically, because if you can't make one, then you've got the other. So let's start just with what we're doing here. What is this about? And I have to get over here to get my notes in place. Life has a lot of stories. We're made up of stories and experiences, and they all come together to move us around or not. So it was in probably 84 when I went to a film. It was a documentary. What do they call it? Launch. We would call it a launch now, but it wasn't a launch back then. And there was an indigenous man who was a filmmaker, and he had wanted to see what the prophecies were with the various indigenous tribes around the world, just different indigenous tribes, not just First Nations and Native Americans. And so he went around and documented the different prophecies, and then made the connections between what they were each getting in different parts of the world in different times. It was a very interesting documentary. But he told the story of when he was in South America, someone said to him, "You need to interview these 4 young men. And in order to do that, you're going to have to go into the jungle." And he said, okay. And the story was that there was, we sometimes have the concept that indigenous tribes were very peaceful. They weren't necessarily peaceful, and they often fought each other. And so there was a tribe in South America who had been warring against another tribe, and you kill mine, I'll kill yours. And finally, the one tribe decided they were just going to annihilate the tribe that had been their enemy. And they were going to capture some of the youngers, and take them into the village and educate them to their ways. So they did that. They went into this village, annihilated all the wise ones, all the older ones, took some of the youngers and kidnapped them into the village, raised them as their own. These 4 young men met because they were being educated in the regular school system. And I think that was, past regular school. They were in a university type college system. And they immediately liked each other and began to spend time together. And as they started talking, they realized that they were all from that village that had been annihilated. And they sensed that they wanted to go back and connect to those roots that they didn't have, but they knew they were there. So they made the commitment, went back into the jungle, found their village. They found the caves where the bones had, where their people had been put. And their commitment was to dream awake the bones of their ancestors. And so he went and he visited with them and he talked to them and he heard their passion. And they told of their dreams, of the visions and the reconnections with the wisdom that wasn't on the planet in any way to be taught, but were held in the bones of their ancestors. He told us some of the experiences he had with him as they called down the weather and, put what they were getting through the unseen, putting it into action. I was extremely touched by that story. So afterward, I went up to him and he thanked him for that and for what for the documentary, but for that story. And he looked at me, this indigenous elder, and he said, "When are you going to dream awake the bones of your ancestors?" I had no idea what he meant until now. Dreaming the way awake the bones of our ancestors is what most of us are called to do. Most of us have not been in an indigenous tradition where the information has been passed on from mother to mother and father to son. And yet the information is held for us. So you have had stories, you've had experiences, and those experiences have brought you here today. You're not here by accident. For whatever reason, I've always, almost from the beginning, what label do you put on yourself? What do you say you are? It's always been a problem for me, because that information, I had to put words to information that had no words, and you'll understand that. Sometimes you get a hit and you know something and you don't know why you know it, and you don't even know how to word it. And sometimes it's when you're with others that you can say a word and then they go like, aha, and they know before there's any words shared. So I was in a place where I was not working with a teacher on the planet. I was working with those in the unseen, because I had said, I don't want to go in picking up the symptoms. I don't want to stay in the onion layer. I want to go to cause. Where can I go to learn? To go to the cause of the problem, eliminate the cause, so that the onion or situation goes away. Where can I go to learn that? And they said right off the bat, we can't tell you where to go because it's not on the planet. Dreaming awake the bones. So I said, okay, I'm up for that. Get a journal, they said, and we'll bring you clients that will trigger questions, because you don't even know the questions to ask yet. You don't even know what to ask for, other than I don't want to do the onion layer. So my story brought me here, and your stories brought you here too. And we're here together because there's something within the tag information that is calling you, and you may not even know what or why, but you're here. So I wanted to start just with defining tag. Like I said, at the first, I didn't even know what to call the work I was doing, that I was being shown, that I was being put together processes, and I didn't know what to call myself. Well, the name of the work was like energy work, yes, spiritual work, yes, healing work, yes, but it was beyond that. So I pondered for a while, trying to come up with a name. What would I call this? And I just finally said to those spiritual guides, which I called the team, and the spokesperson to me at the beginning, in 71, when I started listening, was Jesus, whose name was then changed to his title, which is Sananda, which I didn't really care what the name was. I mean, it was comfortable to have a name, but that's not what was important to me. And I'm telling you these things because there's concepts in it for you. What was important to me when I would get information and write it down, it would just flow like ideas, write it down, was if I apply these suggestions, would it bring greater love? Because in my model, Christ represented love. Would it bring greater love? That was one of my questions. The other discernment question was this: are these the words? Is this the energy and the words and the feelings that I would expect coming from someone who represents love, who is love? So that's why I very rarely use names. I don't say this is from so and so, this is from so and so. I call them the team, the team. But they have certain qualities of character. So I finally said, so I turned to that team, and it was a small team to begin with. I said, I don't know what to call this. Do you have a name for it? And they said, we do. Of course they do. I learned that along the way. Of course they do. They know the answer before I have the question. I said, what is it? And so I used my pendulum, and they gave me the letters R-E-A-N. Rian. So here I am, 89, first part of 1990. Out there in the world, there is personal growth, there's metaphysics, there's ascension work. And I'm going to say this work is Rian. I'm going, and so I'm laughing. I'm thinking, oh, you guys have a great sense of humor. And as those of you who work with beings who are in the unseen, they do. They have a lot of the humor that they can add to the table. So I thought they were joking with me. Left the letters on my desk, walked away, came back later in the day, looked at it, and I realized it was an acronym. And the acronym was for this: Re at one now. Restored to our oneness now. I said, you're talking about instant healing. And they said, we are. Re at one now. And I used that name for probably a year and a half. And then they told me to let go of Rian. And I'm going like, wait a minute, we're just getting started here. You mean let go of the whole work? And they said, no, let go of the name, Rian. And I said, okay, then what shall I call it? They said, you come up with a name this time. So by then I had done enough of the work that I knew we were working with, we worked with beings in the unseen. This work is not done because of your sensation and your interpretations and your assumptions. This work is done because you connect with a being of intelligence in the unseen world that knows more than you know, can gather more than you gather. So we're working directly with those in the unseen to look at, and I was doing all in-person work at the time, look at the grids or the energies of that person on my table, look at the grids and find the knots, if you will, that cause the grids to be out of balance, to be disrupted, to remove those knots, those seeds, those patterns, so that the grids go back into balance. And a balanced energy field will always have a healthy triangle. And to have a healthy triangle is the basis of sacred geometry. Anything that comes from that. But the foundation and the strength is the triangle. So I decided to call it triangular, because that's what we wanted as a result. Healthy triangles in the energy, angelic grids, working with those in the unseen. Angelics, yes, but beyond that, but that was the representation. Working with those in the unseen to bring grids back into wholeness. Tag. So living in the limits that we have been in for way beyond this world is what the problem is. We keep going further and further down the rabbit hole. So the Rian work is all about living in integrity to the truth of your divine self in order to transcend that cultural perception, the cultural limits. And TAG's purpose is to facilitate that transition for yourself. And if you're working for others, to help that with others. It's to at one. Now, what's interesting is just within the last month, they've brought back Rian. We're still TAG, Galactic System of Transformation and Learning and Education, but we have brought in the process of Rian, of instant healing, and that will be part of level 3. So the objectives of Rian and TAG is to free individuals of all domination energies, to open and strengthen an individual's connection to their spiritual guides of integrity, to restore an individual's voice of authority, and to teach awareness, tools, processes that remove that which is false. And in that process, we will restore the sovereignty, the connection to the divine, which allows the experience of being a conscious expression of the divine to emerge in our lives. There'll be handouts as we, and so that's why, you can take notes if you want to, but there'll be handouts. So I want, that's the objective. The TAG's objective isn't just to shine light on the dark. It isn't just to say, oh my gosh, we're stuck. It isn't to say, oh my gosh, there's a problem. Are there things that keep us stuck? Are there problems? Absolutely. Are there beings of domination floating around? Absolutely. What is it we then do to remove that which is false or dominating? That TAG has always been, what do we do? What do we do? We don't run and hide. We don't need to do that anymore. There was a time when we did. We had to survive the best way we could. So TAG brings a whole bunch of different things to the table. So the overview of this particular course of level 1 is this. My intention is to let you know that you are, as I am, you are Sha women. You are Sha women. I named myself early on a radical mystic Sha woman. I didn't know what else to call myself. I was radical because I didn't take the common answer. I didn't read a book and said, oh, then that's the cause. I pushed further. Radical, that just means you push further. You push further. Radical. Mystic, because I had to dream awake the bones. There was no one in my tribe to teach me. I had to dream awake the bones. Mystic, going into the unseen. And the reason I put Sha woman in there is because the energy of nature, the voice of stones, the sense of oils, the embrace of the trees is critically important to me. And all of that is part of a shaman's path. So I listened to an interview conversation Friday night, a friend of mine starting a new podcast. So I'm listening. And she had a couple on who were a Peruvian couple who were Peruvian shaman. And she said, asked them, what is a shaman? And they said, they work with spiritual guides. They work with the unseen. I went, got it. We make a difference in the seen because of the information we bring in. So we just don't bring in information to do la-di-da. No, we bring in information to make a difference in the world. Got it. You hold yourself in integrity to that which you know Mother Earth is, that shaman. Got it. Using medicine from the earth Now, I don't use ayahuasca or some of those plant medicines. That's not what I'm trained in. But trained in crystals and stones and water and trees. Got it. Shamans start with a calling. It's an invitation. It's your stories that bring you to like, oh my gosh, that makes sense to me. Got it. And your visions, that which comes to you from the unseen, are not hallucinations. They are information. They are answers. They bring benefit. Got it. And I bet every one of you would be able to say the same thing. So I want you to know that whatever we have or have not known about ourselves in this journey of unseen energy and attraction to earth and to ceremony, etc., there's a hugely important, rich tradition. And it begins with you. And that's where we're going to begin today. By the end of this first level, I want to have you claiming really a solid presence, what that is, what that feels like, what it brings to you. What do you do when you feel out of balance to that? What's your commitment, etc.? You are the core of this work. Beyond that, who are you going to connect with? Who are you going to listen to? And it doesn't mean you haven't gotten those in place, but we're going to take time to reevaluate it. Even just this morning, as I'm sitting, in that quiet place, they said, you've got to expand your team because there's more available for healing now. So we're not static. You're not static. So always be in a place of evaluation and redefining and clarifying. So that as I start to share with you how a first session tag works. And I haven't done a basic session tag for a very long time. But because, eventually the various levels can all be put into a session. But a basic tag session, what is that? What does it entail? How do you do it? What does it bring as an advantage so that you will have at the end of this and even during this first level, these 3 months, you'll be able to start saying to your friends, would you mind being a beta tester here? I was going to say guinea pig, but I'm going to say beta tester. I want to apply what I'm learning. And you're going to be able to start doing those basic, powerful tag a session on yourself or those in your world, getting feedback, coming back. What do we learn? What do we learn? What do we change, etc. So before we go any further, I'm just going to ask, any questions at this point before we take about a 5-minute break. So just if there's a question or feedback, just unmute yourself in popcorn style. Looks like Emma's reaching.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We
This is a
can.
new setup. I just as you were talking, Sharon, and you said the word healing, and it's sort of like, there's like on a long time ago on the Disney Channel, and we could watch the flowers like open, and like they took the time and they compressed it or whatever they did, and it was like, oh, healing is a lot more than I thought it was. I didn't know what that meant yet, but it's like, oh, I thought healing was something, and certainly more expensive maybe than a lot of people who are like, come in and fix me please. But I think it's like I'm suddenly getting that it's like way more than I thought. So thank you.
Note it in your journal, Emma. Thank you. Christina.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well for the confirmations, because I'm functioning the same way like you do. I've been, for those of you who don't know me, I've been working for the last 11 years as a medium, which is a type of healing. It's through communication.
Mhm.
But all my life. And when I started training mediumship development 30 years ago, all the others in my group, in my class, not my class, the class I was attending, they would have names for their unseen people, for their guides, or I mean, an identity for them. And I would just sit there and think, oh, didn't have identification. I had feeling, and I had colors coming to me, and impression of things, but I never received identification to the day. And it has never been important, because the quality of the information was important to me. Does it resonate? Is it helpful? Is it in support? Then okay, I don't care where it comes from. So thank you for confirming that. And it's so beautiful to hear it from someone else, someone experienced.
Yes, Christina. Yeah, you know, there are some beings that I work with who do not want to have a name on them. They do not want to. I mean, they're not. Their home is in a part of the galaxy, that Laniakea landscape. I don't even know where that is, nor do they want it known where it is. I mean, they don't want to be labeled. They do not want anything like that. Others may not have a name, but we create a name together, just because it's sometimes comfortable to do it that way. So I've had that whole spectrum too. So yeah, what's more important is what impact does that energy have on you, and then through you to others. That's what's most important.
Mm-hmm. I used to say, give me a name, give me something, because, and they used to say to me, and still today, because it changes, they used to say to me, you can call me whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's us here that's kind of how we on the planet function. Anything else? And otherwise we'll take a little bit of a break. Okay, it looks like we're going to take a break, and we're going to be gone for 5 minutes, which we'll come back at 46 after the hour. Now remember, I'm relying on you guys to help me with those numbers, because I think I did a 5-minute break the other day and it was like 15. Like, okay, so 46 after the hour, and I'm going to put the recording on hold. So we'll see you hear that voice, or stop it for now. So we'll see you back 46 after.